get into that backfield and wreak havoc. He was a beast in fall practice. Auburn tipped me off to him back in August, said, hey, watch out for Nick Fairley. His weight's down from 320 to about 305. This kid was on all year. He was almost as valuable to this football team as Cam Newton was. Because without Nick Fairley, that defense is down substantially from what it needed to be a team that could win a national title. Nick Fairley lulls in his play, and he go out there and be a game-to-game guy, John, a play-to-play guy, and hold up. He only had one great season at Auburn. 2 years ago, he was there. He didn't do much. This year, he was off the chart.
Let me just say, we just talked about the Vikings and Pat and Kevin Williams on the inside. Now, I know, look, he's a youngster, and Sue's only played 1 year, but think of the possibilities. Jim Schwartz, defensive-minded coach. Think of what you got to deal with Detroit. I know they got a lot of other holes.
They need corners bad, Boom. I mean, that's a cornerback, outside linebacker.
I know.
But Prince Amukamara and Jimmy Smith were there, and they did not expect Nick Fairley to be there. I guarantee you that. He was number 5 on my board. You don't expect that to happen where the 5th player on your board drops down to 13. They were thinking at that point, we're going to take Prince Amukamara and Jimmy Smith, I believe, John. And they audibilized the Nick Fairley because they couldn't pass him up.
He looks surprised, doesn't he? Look at him.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm sure Detroit didn't talk to him much.
He's probably mad at about 12 teams that didn't pick him. That's probably what's going through his mind. But when he gets off the plane tomorrow and meets Ndamukong Suh and Kyle Vanden Bosch, who's really the ringleader of that front four, this is a formidable front four in Detroit. We get him on Monday Night Football against the Bears. I can't wait for that one.
A little R-E-S-P-E-C-T, Aretha Franklin for Nick Fairley, who tore up the SEC. Now he gets a chance with the Lions.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, take F-T-C-T. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, Sarah, say. Sock it to me, sock it to me.
I vow to get up as early as you. I vow to haul whatever you can fit in my bed and tow whatever you hitch me to. I vow to never complain, never give up, and never say never. I vow to be the best Sierra ever.
What are you doing?
You can write on these new Bud Light labels. So I'm sending out 12-ounce invitations.
Here we go.
Yes. Oh, hold on.
How many people do we invite?
About 8 cases worth.
For limited time only, the new My Bud Light bottle with a special label that lets you use a key or coin to write your name, number, whatever. Here we go.
Matt, come on. Seriously?
My favorite thing, my daughter's way of saying, welcome home. Instant breakfast.
A little piece of home after an away game.
Eating lunch out.
When Dad's in charge of dinner. Stop it. Stuffed crust.
Making Wednesday feel like a Saturday. That's my favorite thing.
That's my favorite thing.
That's our favorite thing.
With DirecTV, you can start watching in one room, pause, and continue watching in any other room. Don't just watch TV, DirecTV.
Welcome back to New York, but we are live with Robert Quinn, and this is a story we'll tell here in a minute. If pictures are, worth 1,000 words, he would be headed toward the St. Louis Rams. Robert Quinn, who that's home in South Carolina. Well, let's get the pick in officially, but Mel, he was one of those Tar Heels that had to sit out all year, NCAA suspension, but rather than leave school, he stayed around school, wanted to be a teammate, even though he couldn't play. The suspension was not disciplinary in any means as far as team rules. NCAA missed the whole year, and here he is still a first-round pick.
Yeah, he would have been maybe 1, 2, or 3 overall. Now, he's a guy not great against the run. You can go at Robert Quinn in that area, but as a pass rusher, you got Chris Long, the one spot. Now you add Robert Quinn. You needed a defensive tackle next to Fred Robbins. Fred Robbins is entering his 12th year in the NFL, had a huge season in 2010, John, with 6 sacks. He's always been solid against the run. You had Corey Legett sitting there from Illinois. Fairley would have been there. I would have thought they would have gone Fairley, but 1 pick ahead, the Detroit Lions take the kid out of Auburn, Nick Fairley. A little surprised it was Quinn. Not at where he goes, John. I think it makes sense. It's value. But you got Long, you got Hall, you had another pass rusher when you could have taken Legett to put next to Robbins. Then you strengthen your middle with Laurinaitis. But not a surprise it's a defensive lineman. Just a little surprise it's an end over a tackle. But I did have Quinn more highly rated on the big board than I did Legett. So there you go.
I think what you're seeing with Fairley and now Quinn are a couple teams that are shocked these guys were there. I think a lot of people thought Quinn would be gone earlier. 2 years ago, you know, he broke a record darn near in the ACC for tackles for loss. Good pick if it's Quinn, I think.
With the 14th pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the St. Louis Rams select Robert Quinn, defensive end, North Carolina.
Well, you play indoors. You have to protect the lead now because you're a pretty good offensive club with Bradford in areas. But this guy can rush the passer. I agree he is suspect against the run. Didn't even play this year. But 2 years ago in the ACC, he led the conference in tackles for losses, had a lot of splash plays. Some people say a lot of his production is inflated where he's not blocked. But I do like athletes. And I think in modern football, you have to have guys that not only can rush, but guys that can cover on these zone blitzes. This guy can do a lot of things. And I really think they're surprised he was still there, Mel.
Well, you think about it. You got Daquan Bowers sitting there. He's got the knee concern, but he played great. Robert Quinn didn't play at all, John. How much does a year of inactivity coming into the NFL bother you?
Well, it does bother me. But last year, Sam Bradford missed almost the whole season. He was a #1 pick, so I don't think it concerns the Rams.
Right.
They did it last year. We'll do it again this year.
They can compare notes.
Right.
The two guys, right? And the Rams, like Detroit, I mean, they got to 7-9 and played for the division title. I understand 7-9 won the division with Seattle, but they're at least a team, rather than picking second every year, they're on the move like Detroit. Now, there's more to Quinn as far as intriguing story and much more important, even than a year-long suspension, much more important. And Adam, you have that word.
No question about it, Boom. Robert Quinn is viewed as a tremendous third-down pass rusher, but there were medical concerns surrounding him. Some teams, 3 teams at least, including 2 in the top 15, had Robert Quinn off their board due to a brain tumor that he had in high school. Now, it never bothered him at North Carolina, never was a factor, but he had that tumor drained, and there were 3 doctors at least that refused to clear Quinn to their respective teams. It's one reason that he slid down to number 14 to St. Louis, but St. Louis was not concerned. They are very happy to have one of the premier pass rushers in this draft, Boom.
All right, Adam, thank you very much. So the Rams, as we say, are moving, and they hope that you ain't seen nothing like the mighty Quinn. They're hoping that that's the case. Next up are the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, who surprisingly won the division a couple of years ago, have fallen back to 7-9. They toyed with Jim Harbaugh. The result, kind of dangled Tony Spriano, the head coach, ended up giving him a 2-year contract. They've been running the ball. You know, they've been running the ball with Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown, but they're getting long in the tooth. Susie, you're in the green room with a guy who, not so long ago, won a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, stay on. You know, one of the things that running back Mark Ingram has really relied on to get here tonight is a very tight-knit family, but perhaps the person most influential in his career is not here. His dad, Mark Sr., a Super Bowl winning wide receiver for the Giants, watching tonight from the common room of a federal prison in Beaumont, Texas. He's there for money laundering and bank fraud, and his sentence actually extended till 2014 in part because he missed his reporting date because he wanted to see his son play at Alabama. But the two remained very close, and I just received an email from Mark Sr. that I'm waiting to read to Mark Jr. as soon as he's picked. Boom.
Well, that's certainly an eye-opening story, which many folks have known. And Mark Ingram in the NFL before things went horribly wrong. The Giants and the Dolphins and the Packers and the Eagles. almost 4,000 yards. Well, look, this is an interesting note as we go to Mark Ingram, the son, who won the Heisman Trophy in '09. Cam Newton, of course, won the Heisman